Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to part 2 of my Dardenne Brothers series. And today we're going to talk about Rosetta from 1999. This is a film starring Emily DeQuenne and Fabrizio Rongione and Anne Yerno and Olivier Gourmet, who I said in part 1 is in about 9 Dardenne films. This film won the Palme D'Or at Cannes in 1999. David Cronenberg was the president of the jury that year, and Emily DeQuenne also won Best Actress. And this is another wonderful film by the Dardennes. We're 2 for 2 so far. And this is available on the Artificial Eye DVD box set, but it's also available on Criterion Blu-ray. And again, this is La Promesse, their first film, was a little bit more plot based. This one, they said they wanted to do it more character based, so this pretty much just follows Rosetta, who we don't really know how old she is, but I think she's around about 17, 18. And we follow her as she pretty much lives hand to mouth, trying to survive. She has an alcoholic mother who does sexual favours for drink or caravan rent, because the caravan they live in, the kind of guy who runs the park is a scumbag who takes sexual favours from the mother rather than taking money. So she is pretty much trying to survive day to day, trying to find work, and we follow her for the length of the film. The film opens with her being fired from a job in a factory. The boss claims because it's her trial period's over, and she is angry about this and resistant, and gets forced off the premises by the police. And we see her rituals of coming back to the caravan site, changing her shoes which are in a pipe. We see her, there's various things buried around the place. She buries like a tin of worms to go fishing with like a glass bottle and wire to try and catch fish. It's a very horrible existence as she tries to get her mother off the booze. She ends up coming across this waffle van at the bus station, and ends up getting a job with the waffle company, with the boss played by Olivier Gourmet. But that doesn't last either, because he ends up giving his son a job, so she's let go from that as well. So she's kind of befriended Rike, who works at the waffle van at the bus station. But because she's so desperate for a normal life, she kind of tells herself as she's trying to get to sleep, she does a fairly drastic thing just to get a job, and then she just reaches the end of her rope as things just don't continue not to work out, and that's pretty much as far as the plot I'm going to take it. This is another film where the Dardennes don't use music. They are directors and filmmakers who try and get to real life as much as possible, as much as you can in a fiction film. They do distance themselves from their subjects, but the way they shoot in an intimate manner, I mean, you're pretty much on Rosetta's shoulder the whole time. You can't help but get hooked into the character. You know, if different filmmakers had made this film, they would have made her completely sympathetic. She does things, you know, you're on her side just because of what she's going through, but then she does do a couple of things that are pretty bad. Whereas other filmmakers would use music to manipulate you, they would have her just being 100% sympathetic. But the Dardennes, even through the distance they keep, but because the way they shoot their films, they're intimate, if that makes any sense. Obviously there is some kind of Bressonian thing going on in these films, but unlike Bresson, who at times is more stately and more, you know, concerned with the frame, and at times Bresson's films are almost like the characters are in trances. Take Lancelot de Lac, for example. The Dardennes films are more visceral. You know, Rosetta spends most of the time on the move, running, hiding, so it's a very visceral film, and because the camera is, like I said, very intimately on her shoulder for most of it, with handheld, it is a much more visceral experience. Again, when people have scuffles, I mean, I doubt very much they're choreographed by a stunt choreographer or anything like that. If they are, they do an amazing job, but the scuffles in their films are really like real scuffles. You know, they're messy and they're untidy and they go out of the frame. And you know, if you're a film fan who loves, you know, wonderful framing and shots and beautiful cinematography, the Dardennes don't do that. The Dardennes aren't really interested in that. They are interested in showing, again, characters and stories that other filmmakers just don't show. A lot of their films are about people who are just trying to make ends meet, which is more of a socio-political statement in Belgium or France. People thought there's a law now, which I didn't know about until I actually researched it, called the Rosetta law, about paying people of a certain age, but that actually was already in existence. This film didn't change anything or anything like that. The Dardennes are quick to point that out. The extras on the disc are actually quite good. There's an interview with the Dardennes in 96 and 99, and there's Cannes footage of Cronenberg announcing that Rosetta won. It's another wonderful film. It's you know, they're not for everybody. These are not Saturday night popcorn films, but they just have this strange knack of making things quite moving when you don't think they perhaps will be. The scene where she gets let go by Olivier Gourmet's character, who's just credited as the boss of the waffle place, just cause he's got to give it to his lazy son instead. And she won't let go of the sack of flour, and she's like hugging the sack of flour. It's actually quite powerful, because she literally is just struggling and staying alive, because she wants to. Her dream is essentially just to have a normal life, just to be seen and just to be part of society, instead of this character who's just on the fringes that nobody sees. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty grim film, but it's an honest film. I think she only has a slight smile on her face twice, when her mother, during a period where she's not completely out of it, sews her name on the apron she's going to wear at the waffle factory. And when she goes back to Rike's flat, and he's doing gymnastics not very well, because he used to be a gymnastic champion. That's about the only time that we see her actually smiling in the film. Obviously it's very brief, because that's the only moments you get when you're living that existence. It is a wonderful. It's another one of those wonderful, terrible films. Again, their style is not for everybody, but it is as close to, realism and look at me or look at us, we're directors. But again, it's a very nice trick, because obviously there's some films where the director does have a distance between themselves and the characters, and you can feel that, and then those films don't tend to be as engaging sometimes, whereas these ones, they have a distance, but again, it's still shot very intimately, and you can't help but get involved with Rosetta's character, regardless of whether she's doing good things or bad things. Again, I'm not going to go into detail about what those things are, but you can kind of see the wheels going round in her head, and you can figure out why she's doing those things. Because again, if you're trying to survive, then there will be times where you do extreme things. The ending, I think you could maybe read it a couple of ways, and again, the Dardennes pretty much just leave that up to you. If you listen to their interview on the disc, then they certainly have their view of what the ending is all about, but I'm sure you can come up with other reasons depending what mood you're in, or depending what outlook you have. So it's another wonderful Dardenne film. Great performances. They do like putting their actors through hell, but they say in the interview they had a great time making it. Whether the actors would agree with that, I don't know. Yeah, another great Dardenne offering. We're 2 for 2 so far. So let me know in the comments below if you've seen Rosetta and what you think of it, and hopefully you'll join me for part 3 of the Dardenne brothers. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying goodbye.